When I first parked my dented silver trailer in the manicured neighborhood of Pinecrest Hills, I knew it wouldn't take long before someone complained. The community had an HOA stricter than a military base, and I was the sore thumb sticking out on their picture-perfect cul-de-sac. My trailer, faded by years of sun and storms, stood between two marble-pillared mansions like a rusted relic from a forgotten era. I'd inherited the land from my late uncle, who bought the empty plot decades ago before the neighborhood even existed. When I decided to move there after losing my job, I thought it'd be temporary, just until I figured out what came next. I didn't expect my arrival to trigger a full-blown neighborhood revolt. The leader of that revolt was Karen. Her name wasn't just fitting, it was prophetic. Short blonde bob, pastel tennis outfits, and a clipboard like an extension of her arm. She knocked on my trailer door the very first morning after I parked. "This is a private community," she said with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Your vehicle doesn't meet Pinecrest standards." "I own the land," I replied. "I'm not violating any zoning laws." Her nostrils flared like a dragon preparing to exhale fire. "Well, the HOA has aesthetic regulations. You'll need to remove it." I shut the door before she finished her lecture. I could hear her muttering to someone outside. Probably her husband or one of her committee friends. Within a week, I had 3 warning letters taped to my trailer and 2 fines for visual disruption. Neighbors stared as they drove by, whispering behind tinted car windows. Their kids pointed at me like I was some kind of roadside attraction. It stung, but I wasn't going anywhere. At night, when the laughter from the cul-de-sac parties drifted through my cracked windows, I sat at my little fold-out desk sketching ideas. I was an architect once, before the layoffs, before everything unraveled. My hands itched to build again, to create something beautiful from the bones of my broken life. One night, an idea sparked so bright it jolted me upright. What if I didn't move the trailer? What if I rebuilt it, not just as a home, but as a statement? They wanted me gone because my place was an eyesore. I'd give them something so stunning, so bold, they'd choke on their laughter. That night, I began designing what would become the most talked-about house Pinecrest Hills had ever seen. I started the transformation quietly. No construction crews. No flashy announcements, just me, my toolbox, and a dream I refused to let die. Each day before sunrise, I worked in the hum of silence. Cutting, measuring, and planning. The trailer's thin walls became my canvas. Karen watched, of course. She'd pull out her phone from behind her hedge and record me like I was a criminal. Her updates in the HOA newsletter were practically gossip columns. Unpermitted activity observed on lot 19. I taped each one on my fridge as a badge of honor. I wasn't breaking any laws. The trailer was legally mine, and the land was freehold. But I was smart, I used loopholes. I designed modular extensions classified as temporary structures, avoiding permit wars. Old shipping containers became foundations. Salvaged wood from a dismantled barn gave the exterior texture. Slowly, the metallic skeleton began morphing into something alive. My old architect instincts surged back like a forgotten song. I worked with precision, blending industrial grit with organic curves. Every inch was calculated to both defy expectation and embrace nature. Solar panels on the roof, rainwater harvesting built into the gutters, and a rooftop garden blooming with color. The first time Karen saw the greenery sprouting above the trailer, she nearly choked on her latte. "That's not regulation," she shouted from across the street. "Neither are fake smiles," I muttered back. She filed another complaint. And another. The HOA fined me, threatened me, tried to shame me. But each letter they sent just fueled my drive. Then something unexpected happened. A stranger knocked one evening, a local journalist named Dana, who'd heard rumors about the trailer architect. She asked to see my progress. When her article went live, "Localman turns trailer into architectural marvel," everything changed. Overnight. Curious visitors started driving through Pinecrest Hills. They took photos, praised the design, even offered to invest. For the first time, neighbors who once avoided eye contact began stopping to ask questions. Karen was furious. She called an emergency HOA meeting, claiming I'd turned the community into a circus. But it was too late. Momentum had shifted. By the end of that month, I had investors, a team, and a vision bigger than I'd dared dream. The trailer wasn't just a home anymore, it was a movement. And Karen? She had no idea what was coming next. Construction began in earnest that spring. The once crumbling trailer now sat at the heart of a growing structure that blended modern architecture with recycled ingenuity. I hired a few local craftsmen, men who'd been out of work, much like I'd been. We poured our frustration, pride, and hope into every plank and beam. At first, the HOA tried to stop us. Karen showed up daily with her clipboard, snapping photos and reciting bylaws. Section 14B, no dwellings exceeding 2 stories. I smiled, showing her the blueprints. It's 1 story, with elevation changes. She couldn't argue. Neighbors peeked through their curtains as massive glass panels replaced the aluminum siding. We installed sliding doors that opened into a courtyard filled with native plants and recycled stone. The solar roof shimmered like liquid gold. The local buzz grew louder. A real estate blogger called it the future of sustainable luxury. People started comparing it to homes in architectural magazines. Offers began pouring in, one even for $1.5 million before it was finished. But it wasn't about the money. Not yet. It was about proving a point. Karen's frustration turned into obsession. She claimed I was ruining property values, then claimed I was raising them too fast, attracting the wrong kind of attention. The HOA board meetings became theater, her voice shrill. My calm replies broadcast in front of smirking neighbors who'd stopped siding with her. Then came the turning point. One morning, Karen marched over as I was laying the final marble tile in the entryway. She sneered, "You think this trailer makes you better than the rest of us?" I looked up and said, "No, Karen. It makes me better than who I was." That shut her up. By the end of summer, the project stood complete, a masterpiece of steel, glass, and reclaimed beauty. A once broken trailer transformed into a 6,000 square foot marvel. The local news covered it. Architectural Digest called. Even the mayor visited. And then came the appraisal, $3.07 million. The same neighbors who once laughed now asked for advice. Karen avoided eye contact entirely. But the story wasn't over. Because I hadn't just built a home, I'd built a legacy. The unveiling party drew half the city. Drones buzzed overhead capturing footage for online features. Guests sipped champagne on the rooftop garden, marveling at the transformation. The once condemned trailer was now a glowing beacon of innovation, a symbol of resilience, creativity, and defiance. Karen stayed inside her house that night. I could see her blinds twitching, her shadow moving as the music played. Reporters asked me what inspired it all. I smiled and said, "Rejection." They told me I didn't belong here. So I built something that redefined what belonging means. The quote went viral. Within days, I was offered contracts, interviews, and even an HGTV feature. The story of the trailer architect spread everywhere. The next HOA meeting was surreal. Karen sat silent as the board, now mostly new faces, voted to amend the regulations, allowing alternative and sustainable structures. What once was forbidden was now the community's new trend. Later, Karen finally approached me. Her tone had changed, quieter, humbled. "Your place is impressive," she said, words tasting sour. "Thank you," I replied. "You know, I could help redesign your yard if you want. Free of charge." She blinked, unsure if it was sarcasm. But I meant it. I'd won, not just against her, but against the version of me who once believed failure was permanent. That night, I stood in my living room. Lights dimmed, glass walls reflecting the soft glow of the garden. I thought about my uncle. About how he'd probably laugh knowing this old plot of land had become something worth millions. The laughter that once mocked me had transformed into applause. When I finally sold the home a year later, for over $3 million, I didn't move far. I bought a small cabin nearby, quiet and simple. But every morning, when I drove past Pinecrest Hills, I'd glance at Lot 19 and smile. Because that was where everything changed. Where a broken trailer became a dream. Where mockery turned into marvel. And where HOA Karen learned the hardest lesson of all. You can't regulate resilience.